called up dispatch. Hey, can you come save us? And blah, blah, blah. One of my buddies, I think, is dead. Oh yeah, they walked into that. We should just let him die. Seriously, that's what the Upper Park management was saying.
Hey, all you outdoor jamokes. Welcome to the Ivan Outdoors podcast. I'm Ivan, and if you are an amateur's amateur in the outdoors, if you suffer from industrial disease, if you're fresh off the couch once a month, or your inner child just thinks it's Indiana Jones, then you have come to the right place. Today, I'm talking with John Goodwin in part two of a two-part series where we talk about his book, Echoes of the Badge. He is a 21-year retired National Park Service ranger, and he's got some interesting stories. This book got him the 2024 Global Books Silver Medal for Professional Biographies. That's a mouthful. And in it are tons of little anecdotes and good stories about his time working for you in the public lands. So I'm looking forward to reading it and getting into it with him here today. If you missed part one, please go back and check that out. That's, of course, on YouTube or in the podcasts. And in that, we get into a little bit of the weeds about the deregulation happening with at the national government level. So if you care about the outdoors like I do, then please go give it a listen. And without further ado, let's get into it. It's so good to hear all of this coming from someone who has a depth of experience working in the public sector in the National Land Trust, for lack of a better term. But I do want to turn it to you a little bit and talk about your experience.
Okay. Yeah.
So tell me about being struck by lightning, because that shit is crazy. I don't know why you got struck twice by lightning. I thought lightning wasn't supposed to strike in the same place twice,
Yeah.
but it did. So
It did.
let's hear about that.
All right. So right before Hurricane Floyd was going to hit the eastern seaboard,
Mhm.
massive, massive hurricane. Your your viewers, listeners can go online. You can see the size of this thing. It was like the size
Dude,
of Texas heading
it was
towards the eastern
enormous.
seaboard.
Yeah.
Well, all the meteorologists were saying, no, the wind is going to blow it north towards the Carolinas, right?
Hmm.
Georgia and the Carolinas, which it did, but you can't take any chances, right? So you got to get out there onto the water, which is Florida Bay and Whitewater Bay, where a lot of our park visitors who are on boats they go to. So our task that particular day before the hurricane came was to go out onto the waters, let people know you got a hurricane coming. You should probably find safe water. If you got a big enough boat, head out onto the water because your boat's going to get destroyed, right?
Yeah.
If it's in a harbor, right? So just passing that message on, but
Wait, wait, wait,
just
wait,
my
wait.
luck as I
Back
was.
up for a minute. So
Yep.
I'm a small boat guy.
Oh
The
yeah.
big boats, you're telling them to go out into the water, not stay in the
If
harbor.
it's Yeah, if it's a big enough boat, absolutely. You
How
can
big
get
is
out
big
there.
enough?
You could, oh, you're talking 50, 100 feet. You're talking big boats. But on
Okay.
the intercoastal waterway,
Yeah.
intercoastal waterway kind of marks our territory
Hmm.
getting in. And so I was making contact with some big, big boats. And the trouble is finding a slip for your big boat if you're just out there cruising the waters, right? Say you're sailing from New York City, you get stuck right there. If you can't escape it, if you can find a slip that's open, and if you don't tie your lines very good, your boat will get destroyed, right? If it's a small enough boat, head back, get that boat on a trailer, get the hell out of here, right? I mean,
Right.
the biggest protect yourself, right? If you don't have the seamanship skills to get out of the way, it's like a freight train, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can either run down the tracks, which you're going to get killed, or you can step off the tracks and get away from the freight train and flank it, right?
Right.
That's how you would do it, right?
Right.
But only if you had that ability to do that, right?
Boy,
So it's
and
letting people know. And I know.
the
So that
intestinal
was my job
fortitude,
was
the gravitas to just, we're going towards it.
or flank it, kind of flank
Yeah.
it. Like if you're fighting a fire, you want to
Yeah.
fight the fire in the
Right.
black, right? Or you want to kind of get way to the flanks and fight it over there if you
Right.
can safely do it. Again, if the wind shifts, you're screwed, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna get
Well, that's
killed.
the gamble.
But
That's the gambit.
it's a huge gamble. But the interesting thing is, even back then, back in the late 1990s, everyone had the ability to listen on the Marine band. They knew
Yeah.
a hurricane was coming. So the job was a little bit, they put me out there and the other rangers out there a little bit. It was risky, but it was our job to do it right, to,
Right.
to make sure that there wasn't that one person who wasn't listening that there was a hurricane coming.
Right. Right.
So I'm out there in Florida Bay, and I am dodging thunderheads one after another. What a lot of viewers may not know, but when you look at a hurricane picture, you'll see all these little bands of red that
Mm-hmm.
spit out from it.
Yep.
So a hurricane is very focused, but like anything that's spinning, it's going to shoot off like little bits, right? Those are thunderheads. So those little purple dots that you see off from the hurricane,
Yeah.
that's a huge ass hurricane or thunderhead. So I was dodging these things the entire day. Had a couple close calls where it like hit near me on the
Mm-hmm.
mangrove islands, and the overall stress and anxiety just got to me. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go into the Keys, find a place where I can fill up my boat, number one, with some fuel, eat some lunch, and just watch the Weather Channel and see what the hell's going on, right? So, no cell phones back there. You didn't have that
Right.
ability to do it. You could call dispatch and ask them what's the weather look like, or just read what the sky looks like, right? Anyway, fill up my boat with fuel, look at the Weather Channel. I call a buddy back at Flamingo where my home port was at, and I'm like, "Hey, Bruce, how's the weather look?" And he's like, "It's pretty dark out here, but not seeing any lightning activity." So I just said, "I got to go for it." So full throttle, I'm heading towards Flamingo. I go through a channel. So Florida Bay is very shallow, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
on high tide, it's very shallow. And there's some areas where it's either a natural or a man-made channel that goes through, because otherwise you've got mud flats on either side. So you
Yeah.
got to go through this deep water, which might only be like 10 feet deep. I'm navigating through Man of War Channel. Skies are pitch black, and never heard the thunder. Saw the bright, beautiful white light, and that was it for me. And
Wow.
the lightning came in through my left shoulder, crossed my heart, so I was gone. I dead probably, right? And so exit out my right hand, out my right leg. But I didn't feel the pain until I came to again on the deck of the boat. I guess when my heart started up again, and most pain in my entire life. Felt like
Wow.
hot razors slicing through every piece of your flesh, just searing you apart. Horrible, horrible pain. But I was out there by myself, so I had to drag myself off the deck of my Boston Whaler patrol boat. Uh,
That's a small
turn
boat,
off the
too.
throttle.
That's not a
It's
big
a pretty
boat.
small boat. It's not a big boat. No, no. So I had to shut down the throttle, turn off the motor, and then try to figure out where the hell I was because for some reason the boat had made a 180.
Right.
I wasn't going north anymore. I was now heading south. Why I didn't hit anything, how long I was out, I don't know. So stop the boat, call dispatch. The radio is still working. Let them know I was hit by lightning. They wanted to send other rangers out to get me, and I'm like, no, you're gonna get someone else killed. I said I can make it in. Let me try at least. And then I had to bring out the chart, had to figure out where I was, and then try to get to my feet again. And I did. I made it back to Flamingo. They put me on an ambulance. They took me into Homestead Hospital, and all the doctor told me was, "You're lucky."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Wow. I
And then
mean,
2 years later, two
your
years later,
shoulder across your heart.
yeah,
I mean, you should
yeah,
have been dead. You probably were for a second.
I probably was. Yeah, it wasn't for your viewers. Yeah, there's no harps playing. There's no little angels floating by you, but it was the most beautiful light that white light I've ever seen, and it
Uh-huh.
just was like total peace. And when I got brought back again, I asked myself, I'm like, or told myself, I'm like, what the hell? Like, I want to be back in that nice white light again because
Right.
this really hurts, right? Yeah.
Wow.
So
So the
yeah,
second time, how'd it
yeah.
happen again?
So 2 years later, I transferred to North Cascades. I was on Ross Reservoir, Boston Whaler patrol boat again, and I'd been shuttling fire crew back and forth. It was later in the season, so they
Mm-hmm.
were doing burn piles, right? They would gather the wood and they'd burn it up. So I'm ferrying them all around. End of my day, dark black ominous clouds appeared, and I'm in the middle of a reservoir. There's nowhere to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh hell. So full throttle again, and I'm steaming back towards Hosamine, which is on the U.S. Canadian border in Ross Reservoir. And this time I saw the lightning hit the water, had time enough to say, oh, never got out the crap. Oh, boom. My hand got blown off the throttle. And thankfully it stopped right here at my right shoulder. But
Mm-hmm.
my arm was useless. My arm was dangling to my side. And I'm like, oh, crap. So turn off the throttle. I'm like, okay, this time I didn't die, which was thankful about that. But I'm like, called
This
again, got
time I
hit by lightning.
didn't die
I,
because I've done that before. Yeah.
I have, yeah, I had, yeah. So, yeah, took stock of myself. Boom, left hand hit the throttle. So I'm trying to do throttle and the wheel with one hand because I can't use the right hand. It's just hanging to my side, right?
Yeah.
I make it there, and now I didn't have that option to go into the hospital. The Canadian helicopter couldn't come in and get me because of the weather conditions. I certainly don't want to get on that damn boat again and be ferried back down to the Ross Dam to
Mm-hmm.
get carried out. And then it's a really rough dirt road that takes you into Canada to go
Mm-hmm.
to like Hope, Canada, which might be the nearest hospital to get to in that area. So my only option was to stay in the cabin that night and and don't die.
So you
I'm
didn't get
laughing,
any
but that's
help that day.
I didn't get any help that day. No, it wasn't until the next day when the weather cleared, my supervisor came, boated me out of there. We went to the hospital.
Yep.
And again, the doctor's like, "You're lucky. Go buy yourself a lottery ticket."
Yeah. Wow. So when did
Yeah.
the mobility of your right arm come back?
Through the night, I started getting more sensation back into it. It's like you ever cross your legs and your leg falls
Yeah.
asleep, right?
Yep.
It's kind of like that, where it's pins and needles. So when I started feeling the pins and needles again, I'm like, okay, that's good.
Good
They
time.
won't have to amputate my arm. So I guess I've
Yeah.
got some feeling back into it. But I didn't get any sleep that night. The thunder was booming the entire night, and it I mean, I feel for people who go through very similar things, especially in combat where, you know, um, help is not there, and you
Yeah.
just got to kind of will yourself to keep going, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you were probably thinking like I'm gonna lose this arm
Oh yeah.
at this,
Yeah.
Are you right-handed
Oh
or
yeah.
left-handed?
I'm a lefty.
Me
Hey,
too.
at least I saw my
At least you can write
I got my
still.
That's right. No, but that was the fear. I mean,
Yeah.
it was pretty well burned. And my thought was is how much, the nerve damage seemed like it was the worst, but how much
Yeah.
damage on the interior, because the
Right.
lightning will get in there and just cook you from the inside. So that was my concern is will it have to be cut off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a long night. Yeah.
Or damage to
So,
some other organ, it's like a microwave
oh,
hitting it. Just
Oh, that was the first one. That was my concern is like,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, you feel like everything on the inside of you is on fire.
Right.
And
How old were you the first time, and how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
yeah, I'm turning 65 in August. So
Okay.
born in 1960, so 39 and 42. 39
Yeah.
and 42 for the lightning strikes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And,
Still
and
just
no, I don't want to get hit again. I'm
yeah.
in good shape, but I don't want to get hit a third time.
Right.
Been there,
Right.
done that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we could just stay on the subject of lightning for a minute. So
Yeah.
I'm a pretty avid paddler, and I have been out
Yeah.
on the water when there's storms coming, and I'm always
Yeah.
like, should I pull off?
Yeah.
Where do I go? Because, what would you say? How serious is it to be like, say, a stand-up paddleboarder or a canoer? And when should you call it and just get the hell off the water?
As early as you can. Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
get to know how to read weather,
Right.
right?
Sure.
Understand like when the wind shifts, that's usually not a good thing. If it's like uh I used to be a climber. So
Mm-hmm.
when you see those puffy little cumulus clouds start getting bigger and bigger,
Mm-hmm.
turn
Mm-hmm.
back. Turn
Yep.
back. Don't say I can make it to the summit and make it back. You're probably going to get struck by lightning, right?
Yeah.
So get to know how to read the weather, look at books. I mean, you have all the information, known to man
Right.
is on your phone. So get to know your cloud types, get to pay attention to the weather too, the weather reports for sure, right?
Yeah.
And if you're everything is a risk, right? I mean, you're into water sports. I used to be in climbing and still hiking and backpacking and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Everything comes with a risk. I
Right.
mean, the saying, you can be in the city, step off a curb, get hit by a bus and killed, right?
Sure.
So I think if everyone knows there's that potential, I'm not
Hmm.
saying get out there and be reckless, but know what can possibly happen to you.
Yeah.
Can you make it out of there if need to be by yourself? If you get hit or, by lightning and stuff like that, if you're still alive, can I make it back home under my own power? You know, it's convincing yourself you can. People can, right?
Right.
Again, heroes are average individuals that are called to do remarkable things, right? And so all of us have that potential to do that.
Hmm.
Just understand that you might be called to have to do that for yourself or your loved
Right.
one, your friend or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, just accept the risk. And if you can't mitigate the risk,
Do-
either don't do it or understand that it's a high likelihood you may not make it back. Yeah.
right. Do you think that being on the water during a thunderstorm is more dangerous than, say, hiking,
Mm.
just due to the conductivity of water?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, I would
Yeah.
say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, one adventure I had on Long's Peak when I was working at Rocky Mountain National Park, and two groups I contacted on the way up to the summit, but they weren't experienced at all. And I kept saying, like, you should not go up there. You should not go up there. And they refused. And like a fool, I was like, okay, I'm going to go up there with them and make sure they get back.
Hmm.
And by the time we made the boulder field area, we summited and came back down, hit the boulder field area, lightning storm hit. And so I had to get the group, take your packs off, like, kneel down, separate from each other because you
Hmm.
don't want to be like the herd of elk,
Right. You don't want
up
to be a
above timberline.
cluster.
Oh no, because you're all going to die.
Yeah.
So lightning, lightning was hitting everywhere. It was like a war zone, with just bombs going off all around. But we had that advantage that we had other objects. These are pretty big boulders all
Right.
around us, right? And not much water. And like you're saying, the conductivity of water, the lightning strike on Ross Reservoir hit the water, came all the way up, came up, through the mechanism of where I
Mhm.
had my hand on the throttle. That's why I got struck on that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, water can be very, very dangerous. I know
Yeah.
I'm preaching to the choir to you about that,
Right.
but yeah, yeah,
Just good to hear it again, and as a reminder. And yeah, I mean, when you're on the water, you're the highest thing around usually on the lake,
yeah, yes,
the
yes,
river.
you are. Yep.
Yeah, got to be taken
Hmm.
very seriously. That's
Yep.
nuts, man. You died once, struck twice.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, you get to die again at least. We know that.
Yeah. Well, I kind of know what to expect.
Yeah,
Like when that moment happens, it actually is. It's pretty peaceful. It really is. There's no
yeah,
pain, and yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
How did that change your outlook on life at all? I mean, after getting struck the first time, or did it take the second time before you started valuing your life a little bit more?
Well, you know what? Yes and no. That first one really set off a bad cycle of PTSD,
Okay.
and it was a lot of survivor skill that I had to fight through. And
Really?
readers
Even
can read up.
I mean, really, I
Oh,
want to ask you about
oh
the
no, yeah,
PTSD, but
yeah.
can you explain the survivor's guilt? Because you were the only one
Hmm.
around. Like, who would you have
Oh,
survived?
oh no, it's all the people that I got there a little bit too late, to save prior to that during
Hmm.
my career. It was like I kept telling myself, why did I live? There was a young lady. She was so beautiful. She had been climbing with her friends in Mount Rainier,
Hmm.
unprotected, like not wearing the safety gear, not roped in. And I get that. That's a choice that she made with her friends. She was enjoying the climb. She fell, struck the back of her head. We ran up the trail, me with a team with oxygen, wheeled litter, and all that. We got there, and she was lying with her head, the back of her head, on the ground, right? And I'm looking at her face. I'm like, oh my God, she's like, number one, strikingly beautiful. And number two, she's absolutely 100% dead. There's no signs of life at all. And so it's things that weigh on me like that before the lightning strike that
So sad.
when I got hit, yeah, and I survived. I'm like, what the hell? Like, like why, asking God or whatever, you know, entity is out there, whatever you pray on, or maybe you don't pray on anything, and that's fine. But you ask yourself, why was I saved? Right. And
Yeah.
I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I just felt so guilty to be alive. And I know it sounds weird. A lot of survivors have that feeling, right? Of
Yeah.
like, why me? Like, why was I saved? For what purpose? Right.
Right.
And,
Right.
and so it took a lot. That was pretty severe at the time, the PTSD that formed. And just as I was kind of learning to cope, I got hit a second time. And so
Mhm.
that all that got flooded in there. Not only the lightning strikes, the animal encounters, the
Yeah.
people I saved, the lives I didn't. I still remember every one of their faces, right? And so
Right.
it was like coping with that for about 10 years and then
Yeah.
fighting the bureaucracy of the workers' comp of, they didn't consider PTSD to
Ah,
be an
well,
actual treatable thing, or not treatable, but a compensable thing of,
right.
I just want,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mental health isn't
I
real
mean,
health. That's not real doctor stuff. Yeah.
oh no, like I had one psychologist that said, "Well, you should be happy you're alive. Let's talk about let's talk about your upbringing, your family." I'm
Yeah.
like, Doc, I'm not here to talk about that. I want to talk about the fact I got struck by, 50,000 volts of electricity. I'm like, that's whatever the temperature of a lightning bolt is. Like, I kind of want to talk about that and kind of what I'm feeling now. And
Yeah.
nobody got it. No, nobody got it. Military, thank God, they're actually treating the PTSD now.
Finally.
Before it was
Yeah.
called shell shock, but before that, yeah, you just kind of sucked it up and dealt with it, and that was kind of like what I was told is just, dude, just suck it up and just deal with it, right? And
Yeah.
you get to a breaking point of like, I can't keep going on, with this PTSD as strong as it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going back to originally what you had asked me. No, I never felt like, ooh, I'm happy to be alive. That
Yeah.
only came later, much, 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 much later, where I actually was like, I not only am happy that I lived through both of those strikes, but I'm
Yeah.
happy I made a difference in
Right.
people's lives. Past that, yeah.
So this kind of brings me around to another question I had written down about PTSD. Myself, I include myself in this, but you and I are both of an age where we
Yeah.
grew up where mental health was definitely not something that men talked about. Um,
Yep.
and and that's changed a lot in recent years. And I think it's pretty, it's courageous to even put it down in writing as you have. But if you
Yeah.
could explain, to hopefully some other men that are reading that are listening to this, why is it so important to acknowledge mental health and destigmatize it, things like PTSD and
Yeah.
depression?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it should be talked about just like we talk about going to the dentist and having a root canal.
Yeah,
I mean, it's part of your health, right? And we need to destigmatize that, especially I know the younger people, they're much better at it than we are. They can
yeah,
talk about these things, and I'm so happy about that. With my generation, our generation, I should say, get to a point where you can feel comfortable talking about it. And
mhm.
yeah, you will lose friendships. You will. I lost friendships. I lost the friendship of
Really,
coworkers who they did not want to hear it, because part of it is they're afraid themselves. Like, oh
hmm,
crap, like this dude who survived all of this stuff has like PTSD and all this other whatever. Like, if he has that, am I gonna get it? And I may not hold up as much as he did. Well,
yeah,
I didn't hold
huh.
up that well. That's the problem. Because I decided not to talk about it because of that culture type of thing. And when I did, that's when a lot of friendships ended.
Right,
But I was like, you know what? I got the message through to you, and maybe the friendships that I lost, maybe in the back of their mind, they were like, they finally at one point, and I'm hoping they didn't, but maybe at one point they said, I'm not doing so good. Let me go get
yeah,
help, right? So it's getting that message out, even to people who may not be as responsive as you'd like. But don't hold it in. Don't hold it in like I did.
yeah,
Go get help, right? And you're going to have to fight for it. Even today, there's going to be, your counselors, your psychologists that'll give you a little pamphlet. Oh, 10 things to make you happy in life, right? Okay, get past that nonsense. Find treatment that
Yeah.
might help, like EMDR
Yeah.
helped.
Yeah.
It's not hypnotism or anything like that, but it's a way of reducing the anxiety for a single horrific event that you went through,
Yes.
right? Doesn't
Yes.
cover
I,
doesn't cover all the whole, like all the stuff I've gone through.
yeah.
EMDR is not going to help unless I have it for every specific thing. But
Right.
then I went to so my breaking point, I had a breaking point in my life where, suicide for me was my only way to I couldn't keep going. And so I
Wow.
was contemplating suicide and I told my supervisor, who is a complete a-hole, um, I told him, I'm not doing good. I need help. And he's like, oh, just work up here in the Marin Headlands. I'll keep an eye on you. I'm like, are you listening to me? So I went to the computer, do some reports, and I checked a Police One website, right? I always went on there for tips of how to be a better law enforcement officer and
Hmm.
equipment. First thing that popped up there was the West Coast post-trauma retreat up in Marin or Sonoma County, but your viewers can find it online. Went to my chief ranger and I said, can I go to this? And she says, absolutely. And she paid for that out of her own pocketbook. The Park Service didn't do it. No,
Really?
no. Yeah, yeah.
That's
And
that's a real friend.
she was, well, she still is. She's a great, great friend, great person. I mean, and yeah, it cost a lot and she paid for it. And I tell you, that saved my life. I mean, I went there with other law enforcement officers. There was a firefighter that was there that got
Mm.
burned over. He survived. The people he was with didn't. They got
Yeah.
killed. So we all had our different things that brought us there. And I got to
Yeah.
tell you that saved my life. And it's asking for help, which is the
Yeah.
biggest thing in our generation is ask for
So
help
bad at it.
for God's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
we are.
and I think there's really something to be said that for the or against this idea that we're all fine, everything's just fine. You know, to normalize the fact that people do have breakdowns and and it's not a breakdown of your character or
No,
your person.
no.
It's just an emotional breakdown and being allowed to vent and blow off the steam, hopefully in a healthy way and not beating somebody up
Yeah.
kind of way.
Yeah.
To normalize that the anger is a real emotion and fear and sadness are all legitimate. And
Yeah.
if you suppress them and if you try to get rid of them, then you are robbing yourself of the part of the human experience. And you're also,
That's right.
creating all of this inflammation, as research has discovered, in your own organs.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know,
Yep. And it leads to other potential issues,
yeah,
alcoholism,
right. That's a big one.
using drugs. Some law enforcement officers that I worked with, it's so crazy. Like they had some mental health difficulties, but instead of doing things the right way,
Hmm.
a couple of them at least they got injured, then they got hooked on the painkillers, right?
Right.
And for them, it wasn't like for me, like the chronic pain as a way to get rid of it. They
Yeah.
initially took it for that, but then they were like, "Oh, I'm feeling good." I'm like, "Dude, you shouldn't be taking that stuff anymore. Like, do you really have pain from
Yeah.
where they operated on you, or are you just taking that because
You're
you're unwilling to
you're
admit that
you're
you need to talk to somebody,
yeah, you're
right?"
feeling bad in here. And that's what we have to
Yeah,
normalize, is that it's normal to feel bad sometimes,
absolutely it is.
and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
okay, to be
yeah,
in a
yeah.
funk,
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's
yeah,
only if it progresses to the point where it dominates your life for a length of
right,
time.
right,
And even if you're not feeling good, if you're having just like, God, I don't feel good at all,
yeah,
go, talk to a counselor or a psychologist, a psychiatrist. Talk to, and if they don't initially give you what you need, go to somebody else. Keep fighting for your life, right?
yeah,
And that's what it is. You're fighting for your life. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
very, very cool, very good stuff.
no.
um
Thanks.
yeah, no, thank you for sharing. I mean, it definitely takes some courage
Yeah.
to do that, and
Yeah.
just to talk about it, especially when you've been brought up in the 70s and 80s like
Oh,
this, and it's
yeah.
yeah, it's
Yep.
foreign to us. Um,
Yep.
so we covered that. Um, I want to talk about law enforcement for a minute. Um,
Mhm.
in my lifetime, I've witnessed the forest rangers, national park rangers go from being rangers to law
Mhm.
enforcement. And it would happen. I saw this transition happen at a time when I was probably at my angstiest. I was in a
Yeah.
outlaw motorcycle club. My dad had died. I was in my 20s and I was
Mhm.
just pretty angry at the world. And, I mean, my first thought was, look, the last thing we need is Johnny Law out here in the woods.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so I guess if you could talk a little bit about how that transition happened, maybe, and do you think it's necessary? I'm sure it probably is. But does it detract from the conservation work that we rely on rangers to actually do?
Absolutely, it does. Yeah. Back in the 70s, there was a big protest. Not going to call it a riot, but a very big protest.
Hmm.
And the rangers who were working at that time did not have any training at all, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't go very good, right? And at that time, they said we need to put the rangers through law enforcement training, right?
Mm.
And so they started putting them through seasonal academies, through the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia. Um, and that was fine initially, but then because I'm in both. I'm both old school, and I saw the new bunch of men and women coming through, right? And I'm not going to generalize. There's still some really, really good rangers out there who are law enforcement officers, but
Hmm.
a lot have forgotten that their job is to protect the park and the people who visit them, not
Right.
to see how many tickets they can write during a season or how many arrests they can do during a season or
Right.
how, in a sense, sometimes how petty they can be.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you did this, I'm going to give you a ticket, or I'm going to arrest you on this. Here, yeah, talk about
Versus
this
just
quickly.
educating somebody, like you don't tag
I
the
know,
rock, like
right, right,
you
yeah,
pick up your
yeah.
garbage. This is
The
how it
letter of the law
works.
and the color of the law, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
A buddy of mine, I won't mention his name, but he was working at a park back east, and
Mhm.
he's a little bit younger than me, right? But there came this uh, some some kids were looking at the weather report for like the eastern seaboard, like right on the ocean. They weren't looking at the weather report for the Appalachian Trail section that they were on, right?
Mhm.
They should have seen that a terrible storm was coming with the potential of many feet of snow, right?
Yeah.
So they went, and if I remember the story correctly, there's three of them. Uh, the snow just completely, they couldn't move forward, backwards, anything. They lost the trail, right? They had cell service though, so they called up dispatch. Hey, can you come save us? And blah, blah, blah. One of my buddies, I think, is dead. The other's not doing so good.
Dang.
Yeah, pretty serious. So
They
back
may
in
have
the
waited a
day,
little
like
bit
when I first,
long to push that
I
button
mean,
there.
yeah, you think? So back in the day, hell, I would have just, and I've done it. You throw in your pack, you throw in everything you possibly can carry with you. You convince your chief, I can do this rescue, and you go
Yeah.
out there and you save a life, right? And
Right.
I mean, you might sacrifice your life during the process, right? But that's kind of a risk. I accept it.
Well,
Anyway,
that's the
so
job.
that's the job. So back to this rescue, my buddy is sitting there, and it's like a Zoom meeting with all the powers that be. Oh yeah, they walked into that. Just we should just let them die. Seriously, that's what the upper park management was saying. And my friend was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" And so he butted in, put his little raise hand feature, and they're like, "Yes, do you have something to add?" And like, "Yeah, I'm going out there. I'm go- I'm gonna go out there. I can do this. I've worked in that weather condition. Give me a couple extra people, men or women. We'll go find them." And they're like, "What?" And so that's the new breed of like, you got yourself into this friggin' mess, you deal with it, instead of like, go save the person's life. So,
Yeah.
end of story. They made it to the victims. They were able to get them airlifted out. Everyone made it back. The one buddy wasn't dead, probably just severe hypothermia, where he was
Yeah.
pretty unresponsive. But that's what's happening right now. So um, we're losing that ability to go out there and get the mission done, and we're
Hmm.
we're training young men and women right now to just be cops
Right.
and not be rangers, right? You can do both. You can, if a person deserves a ticket, give them a ticket, right? But if a
Yeah.
person that you think you can get, like you said, education, right?
Yeah.
Educate why you shouldn't be doing the behavior that you're doing, right? And that's people respected rangers when we did that before,
Right.
right?
Yes,
I
that
get the training. Yeah,
incurs the respect because you did not, you did not penalize me for making a mistake. You just allowed
right.
me to correct my mistake in
That's right.
with
Yeah.
humility, and
Yeah.
that curries an infinite amount of respect for the people that are watching out over these lands.
Oh, oh yeah. Oh, another quick story. But near the end of my career, I heard a park ranger and a park police officer get pretty brutally assaulted by a homeless person, right?
Uh,
And I, here in the description, I knew who he was because that's an area that I worked. I get to know the population that's out there and everything like that. Well, I made it there. Their condition wasn't bad. They got cut, and so one had like a scalp wound. The other was like putting some pressure on that. The other guy was relatively okay. Both need to go to the hospital, right? And I
mhm.
said, "Are you guys okay? Ambulance is coming. Do you want me to go get the guy?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." He fell down the slope. So I carefully made my way down the slope, and I could see him hiding in the bushes. I knew his name. I called out his name. I said, "Come on out. You know me." I said, "You can trust me, right?" So he came out of the bushes and he was holding a broken bottle, right? And so I drew out my gun and I said, "Don't make me do this. Do not make me do this," right? And yeah, some officers may have shot him right at that point, right? But I'm
Yeah.
like, I have the distance from him. I know this guy. Let me talk to him. And so eventually, he dropped the bottle, got him into custody, and we got him safely out of there. Right, all
Yeah.
three were fine with their injuries, but that's just kind of what I'm saying is, uh, if you can uh, try to talk to the person before
Hmm.
you have to go to the next level. But I'm
Yeah.
just seeing with a lot of new people, and this is the training they're getting, they're escalating things from 5 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour
Yeah.
with not going all the steps in between. It's
Right.
like, come on, guys. Like, I get it. It's a tough world that's out there. I get you have the training, you're getting, all this like, okay, this is what you got to do. You got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. But I think we're losing what Rangers used to be like. Yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah.
That was a great answer. And
Thanks.
yes, it
Yeah.
kind of confirmed what I had already suspected a little bit was happening, which is really too bad. But
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there is obviously the pendulum can always swing the other way with enough
Yeah.
public
I hope
outcry
so.
and people like you saying, "Hey, you got to remember your first mission is conservation, and that includes humans' life and dignity. And you don't want to put some guy in jail or in the
Yeah.
poorhouse just because he littered. You want to
Right.
fix the littering."
Right. 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 Fix the problem. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
you know, when I go out into the woods or wherever it is, litter, like camp litter, is such a nuisance. And
It is.
um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know what to say about it except that I definitely have noticed. Um, I've noticed. How should I put this diplomatically? Um, the motorhead crowd
Mhm.
definitely litters more than the human powered crowd.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not to say that, the bunny huggers don't screw up. I'm sure there's plenty that do.
They do.
But just how do you drive into a dispersed campsite with your truck and end up leaving 30% of what you brought in?
I know.
I
I
I
know,
I,
right?
I don't get it. I saw an entire awning that the wind had probably gotten it and bent it, and they just left it. They didn't even try to collapse
Uh,
it. They just left it with two other
yeah.
huge bags of garbage, which I guess at least they put the garbage in the bags, you know.
Right.
But how did you miss that part? And in my own I grabbed those bags
Hmm.
and I walked them down the trail until I saw a truck at another campsite that nobody was at, and I left them at the truck. That I was,
Yeah.
hopefully they'll do the right thing. I'm not going to walk these two bags 2 miles
Oh
down
no.
the trail,
No.
but oh
Yeah.
God, It's
I mean,
infuriating.
even in the far left San Francisco, you would
Yeah,
think that the populace would be like super into conservation and doing the right thing, and what you pack in, you pack out.
yeah,
Oh no, like Ocean Beach, right? A lot of used to be party central. People out there by the hundreds as the when the sun set, having campfires everywhere,
yeah,
and it would be the minority of them that were doing the right thing. A
yeah.
lot would bring pallets with nails
Hmm.
and construction type wood, right?
Yeah,
And I'd contact them like, that wood's treated, and you burn it, all that smoke is going to blow from the ocean into the Sunset and Richmond district. And there's people with breathing difficulties. There's young people, old people, uh, whatever age group, they're going to get affected by that smoke. And that pallet that you're burning, the nails, this isn't a blast furnace heat, right?
yeah,
Those nails are not, they're going to make it through the fire, and you're going to have kids, surfers, dogs walking on it the next day, and they're going to have nails coming up through their feet. And,
right.
and the education aspect seemed to work, but these were younger people that should have known better. And it's
Yeah,
like, please, guys, you got to think. Or leaving their stuff behind the morning after these parties, beer bottles, trash all over the place. It's
right.
yeah, like you said, didn't your mom or dad tell you to pick up after yourselves? Like they're not here right now.
You
Do the right
know,
thing.
it's almost like there's a sense of self-entitlement of some kind to just be able to leave that sort of thing behind or to not care. And a
Yeah,
sense of invincibility. Like I can burn this treated wood. It's going up. I'm not going to really breathe it, but this idea or the a short view. Later in life, you're
yeah,
going to wish you
yeah,
did not
yeah,
burn tires, and then to just
yeah.
yeah, the sense of self entitlement. And you see it with like people building Karens all over the trails, and it's just like, oh my god.
Oh, I know. I know.
Do you really need to leave your mark? Are you that insecure?
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, I
I even have
digress.
long-term health. I have long-term health effects from the all that smoke that I breathed in working at Golden Gate, working those fires.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it, but then after I retired, they had those horrific fires up
Mm,
north, and the smoke just enveloped the Bay Area. And I
yeah.
was like, I can't breathe. Like I had to go over to Kaiser and I had to get an inhaler, and I keep it with me because I'm like, oh my gosh, I probably breathed in stuff I shouldn't have breathed in, and it's caused that long-term damage, right?
Yeah.
It's a message I wish I could share going on the way back machine to the young people that I contacted. Burning that crap is like, you know, you you're probably going to have these health effects later, breathing
Yeah.
all that stuff in. You
Right.
will. Yeah.
Yeah. Or,
Yeah.
burning beer cans. You see it all the time, the Bush beer
Oh,
cans.
yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
you're burning BPA and aluminum
Yeah.
and paint.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you
And that's
know,
that's going up into the air that we breathe,
yeah.
or into the
And,
or it's into the land. Yeah.
blowing right into your face. I mean, it's a campfire. Nobody leaves a campfire without smelling like campfire.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Interesting. So, all right. Well, this has been good. Um,
This has been great. Yeah. Good
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Of
Thank you
course.
for your
Yeah.
public
Thank you.
service again, and the advocacy that you're partaking in now. Um, Hopefully this gets out there at least a little bit, my incremental way, and it motivates
Yeah.
people to, speak out, stand up, and mostly go use our wild places and take care of them. Because
Right.
there's so many out there, and there's so many that are obscure, completely obscure. This one place that I go near Denver, I'm in Colorado, and
Yeah.
on one side of the road, it's during the season, it's like total mountain biker central, and on the other side of the road, it's completely forgotten. And
Yeah.
and it's those places that I worry about the most because those are the places that are going to get permitted for whatever extraction it is,
Yeah.
and we're going to lose them. I mean, I've
We're
never
gonna lose them.
seen
Yeah.
a mine that did not have a negative impact, right? I mean,
Oh, years later. I mean, you live
yeah,
in Colorado. You go up to where the mostly silver, but some gold as well. Those old mines.
Yeah.
and it's still a scar on the side of the mountain that will never heal ever.
Never heal.
I mean, it'll
You know,
it'll
and
look like that scar for the rest of eternity, or until the mountain becomes dust, right?
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
well, and the
yeah,
headwaters of the North Fork of the South Platte. You
mhm,
you go up Fire Road 60, and you get to the headwaters. With the Platte as a creek at that point, and all of
yep.
the rocks are this golden orange color, and I don't know what it is, but I know it's not right.
It's not good either. No,
Not good.
no,
You know.
it's gonna hurt you, whatever it is. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Mm,
It's I really
yeah.
appreciate you sitting down with me, and
Thank you.
I loved hearing your stories. So
Oh, thanks.
I'll
Thanks.
put your book up on the screen here during the
Okay.
when I edit it, and
Okay.
I look forward to reading it as well. So thanks again.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you. All right.
All right.
Call me if
I,
you need anything.
I will. Bye.
Bye.
John Goodwin, Echoes of the Badge. I hope you enjoyed that. If not, found it interesting. I'm looking forward to getting into it. If you haven't gotten into the first episode, please go do that. Especially if you care about your public lands, hear it from the horse's mouth. A public lands professional. And you can find me on YouTube, Ivan Outdoors, or wherever you get your podcasts. Maybe from your mom's boyfriend. I don't know. All right, get lost.